All right, here we are again.
Episode 2.
Ethan,
And Andy,
go to city. Welcome back.
Thank you. I always enjoy being here and spending some time with you and always talking Mets.
Exactly.
You want to get us started?
Sure. Let's talk about the pitching. We didn't talk about as much about that last time. I think Freddie Peralta had just arrived, and he so far has been everything we would want him to be. But the rest of the rotation, still, there are a lot of great possibilities, but I don't know how it's all going to work out. Do you think it's going to be a six-man rotation?
Mendoza just the other day said it was going to be a six-man rotation because apparently Ron Darling, I did not hear this, but Ron Darling had said that it's time for the Mets to stop coddling Senga and he should be in a five-man rotation. And I guess reporters brought that to Mendoza. He said, no, we're a six-man rotation. It seems like every time the Mets have talked about a six-man rotation in the past, somebody gets hurt and becomes a five-man rotation anyway. So I don't have a problem with that being the plan as long as they're not shoehorning somebody who's not ready into a sixth man.
Right. And I heard that they were thinking that Peralta would still be on a regular rest, and then the rest of the rotation might go around that.
So Peralta would be on a 5-day.
Yeah.
I mean, that the math gets complicated there.
And the other thing is, at the beginning of the season, there are a lot of off days.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, it was not that long ago that you started with a four-man rotation during the beginning of the season because, like you said, the off days. So it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. Does more rest preserve your arm, or does more rest throw off your timing? I'm not a pitcher. I don't know.
Right.
I guess we'll see.
Right. And it also gets that whole thing about that should you push pitchers to go longer in games? And by doing that, does it build up their arm strength or does it exhaust them halfway through the season?
Yeah, I have a particular opinion about this, both from the aesthetics of the game and also just in terms of the strategy. First, the aesthetics. To me, there's nothing more exciting than a pitcher throwing the team on his back and taking them 8 or 9 really solid innings. And even if you don't have your best stuff, going out there as a fighter, I think that's great. And, nobody's favorite player is a 3-inning relief pitcher.
No.
So just from the aesthetics of it, I think I like that. But the other thing too is, every front office in the game will admit that the most unpredictable part of building the roster is the bullpen. So why build a system that turns over a known quantity after 5 innings to an unknown quantity? It just has never made sense to me.
And I get that they've gotten to the point where they want starting pitchers to pitch as hard and get as much velocity and as they can. And it's hard to tell them now to dial it back. But I mean, we're talking just dialing it back slightly, right, and they get an extra inning or 2 out of them.
Right. I mean, again, we have no expertise in this, only fans. But, I mean, dialing it back was something that pitchers when we were growing up did all the time. And they saved something in the tank for that big strikeout in the 7th inning or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, the data says what the data says, I suppose. But I just don't see the rationale in turning a game over to lesser pitchers. It just doesn't make sense to me. So,
all right. Well, to get back to the rotation again for a second.
Sure.
So it's I have Peralta is the ace, and he probably is pitching opening day. Then Nolan McLean and David Peterson, who seemingly is easy to forget about, but I mean, for half a season last year, he was terrific.
Yeah. The question is, did he tire, and therefore maybe he is better positioned this year, or was he in rarefied air in the beginning and he didn't really earn that? I guess we'll find that out.
Exactly. And then Sean Manaea and Senga, which, both unknown quantities. I mean, Manaea, you hope could get back to where he was, but I still worry about those loose bodies in his elbow that he seemingly doesn't care about. But
yeah, no, I think didn't one of the Braves pitchers, isn't he on the shelf for loose bodies? I mean, like they can be tricky. The other thing about Manaea is, like, if you go back to 24, he was dominant in the second half, sort of the flip side of what Peterson was last year. And, he demonstrated a new arm angle and all of that. So is that real, or, even if he's healthy, which Manaea are you getting? I'd like him. and in spring training, I'm always optimistic that everybody's going to hit their, their peaks. But yeah, I mean, there's question marks, but I do think we're in a much better position pitching wise this year than we were last year.
So we have a 6-man rotation that would be Peralta, McLean, Clay Holmes, Minaya, Senga, and Peterson. And, both Minaya and Senga are unknown what they're going to be able to do. And certainly Christian Scott seems like he is ready to come back if needed.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Scott showed some promise when he came up at the end of 24, or actually it wasn't even the end. It was sort of the middle of 24, but he's a little homer prone. He was homer prone in AAA. He was a little homer prone in the majors. I don't have a problem seeing him back at Syracuse working that out. But as a first man up, not a bad arm to have as your first man up.
Definitely.
And Jonah Tong. I mean, I think the depth that they've built this year, if there's relative health, affords someone like Jonah Tong to spend a year in the minors really, really honing the craft. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah. Because you can see that he's working on Jonah Tong is working on lots of different pitches this spring training, but he's not quite there yet.
Right. And I think that, I read a lot about him being disappointing in his major league, stint last year. And he was, obviously, his ERA was over 7, but there was kind of a couple of bad starts, but some really, really good looks in there.
Mm-hmm.
Some innings that got away from him, the kinds of things that you expect a young pitcher to suffer through. I'm very high on Jonah Tong. Plus, I love people with quirks, and that windup is so quirky. I love it. But I feel so much better about this year's pitching than I did last year, especially because Clay Holmes was a reliever last year. We didn't know what he was going to bring.
Exactly. And I think he'll be able to pitch, another 10 or 20 innings this year, and that'll make a big difference. That's the kind of signing that I think David Stearns brings to the Mets that maybe some previous front offices didn't think creatively in that way. And even the way he built the whole team this offseason, we talked about it at length in the last episode, but there were some really clever moves that I don't think we saw coming, so I feel very confident with him up there. But pitching wise, I'm very satisfied with how we have it. Yeah. And I guess we could go over to relief pitching now. And it may start with Tobias Myers, who they got in the Peralta trade, who seems to be capable of being a starter, but also seems like it's going to be very good on coming out of the pen.
Yeah, I think he gives you a lot of flexibility. I think that was another kind of unsung move. We'll see how it plays out, but he has shown some real promise. And yeah, pen or starting rotation is great. There's a lot of people who have wanted to see Tyler McGill out of the bullpen because he tends to do well in spurts. And I think Meyer can sort of have that kind of role where he can start when you need him or relief when you need him. I think I'm excited about him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I stuck with Tyler McGill a little bit longer than some other people, but he can't seem to put it all together.
That is the issue. He's the kind of player that once he leaves the Mets will put it all together. He's the Mike Scott, right? He'll go and maybe Mike Scott cheated a little bit, but
maybe
just a little. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the pitching. To me, Senga is a real issue. He's so good when he's good, but he's like a fighter jet, right? Like really powerful. But if anything is off, there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. And I at a certain point, you have to say, I know you don't have your best stuff, but you're a big boy now. You have to figure out how to get outs even without your best stuff. And so that's frustrating about him.
Right. But maybe that is what happens with a 6-man rotation is, say, Senga starts off like he did last year and, had the first 10 or 15 starts, he's terrific, and then something happens and he loses it, then you go back to a 5-man rotation.
Yeah. And
you get what you can out of him.
And the other thing, too, is you're really counting on him in years past to be top of the rotation. Um, and he hasn't always been able to answer that bell. Now, I mean, at best, he's your number three, right?
Hmm.
You could make the argument that you go Peralta, McLean, um,
Holmes.
Holmes, and even Mania before
Hmm.
Senga. I mean, you could not bury him, but you can put him lower where your reliance on him is not as great as it's been in the past. And maybe that's good for everybody involved.
No, I think it is. And there was a lot of talk about trading him, but you wouldn't have gotten anything back for him, and the potential is still there.
Right. I think if you'd be trading low on him,
Yeah.
and that would be nuts. And he's incredibly affordable for when he's on what kind of pitching he delivers. So, yeah, I don't think trading him made sense, but I would like to see him, for lack of a better word, toughen up.
I agree.
There's also, there's on the farm too. There's other pitchers that are probably not going to make an impact, or at least not right away. But Weniger and Lambert, they've got some. They've got some. This farm system is just so much deeper than it's ever been.
Right.
It's not just a bunch of stars in the making. It's a lot of pieces all throughout. It's an exciting time. It really is.
Yeah, no, I would say there are at least 3, 4, even 5 pitchers who, have potential of really making it in the majors. And that's the thing. You need to have that many, and then one of them will actually have a decent career.
That's correct. That's correct. But that seems like a good segue if we're talking about minor league talent to talk about the outfield and Mr. Carson Benj. And what's your impression so far?
So far, I mean, I think he hit his first home run the other day.
Off a lefty, I believe. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
I think he did.
But I think he is doing what he needs to do. They brought some other people in who could start the season, and Bench could come up in a couple of weeks or a month. But I think he is very close to doing enough to make it for opening day.
Yeah, I agree. I think Talkman has been doing great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a very clever signing as well. So I think that you have legitimate, decent backup, plan B if Benj is not quite ready. The nice thing about Benj is he's got some skills that keep his floor pretty high. In other words, even if he doesn't hit particularly well to begin with, he's a good fielder. He's got a great arm and he's got some speed. So those things don't really slump so much. So yeah, I'm pretty high on Benj. And he flew through the minor leagues too, which is always fun.
And the fact that he's now in right field would be where he would be rather than center field, I think also makes a difference.
Right. What do you make of Soto moving to left?
I think it certainly seems like he is totally on board with it. And
I heard it was his suggestion, in fact.
And he's playing left field in the WBC, which we may be talking about in a little while. But I think, defense was never his strong suit. We all know that. But he says he wants to work on it, and so I think left field is relatively, slightly easier to play than right field. I mean, he still has to get to the ball and throw it to the, but I think he's capable of getting better to being at least an average fielder, and left field should be no problem for that.
Yeah, and he's still young. I mean, he's been around forever, so it's easy to forget that he's 27 and you can still be. Is he 27? I think he's 27. Yep. So you can, you can still hone skills at that age. I think that's great. And we saw last year he decided suddenly he was a base stealer. Who saw that coming? I know. So I don't. I wouldn't put a lot of bets against Juan Soto in my life. I think that would be foolish. But yeah, I think it's an easier field to play, like you suggest, and you don't need the same kind of arm from left field that you need from right field. I love it. I love that he's out there, and I like that he recognizes his fielding as an issue and he's going to go for it. Mm-hmm. I love that.
No, and he's not just thinking about himself. He's thinking about what's best for the team.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think the outfield, last time we did one of these, you said we don't even have a left fielder. Like we really didn't have a full outfield. Mm-hmm. But now they got a very full outfield and some fourth, fifth, and even sixth players who can fill the roles if there's injuries or whatever. I think again, credit goes to Stern. He really did a good job, I think.
No, I agree. And I don't have strong feelings about Luis Robert Jr. yet, but he seems to, at least defensively, seems to be doing fine. And, he's capable of hitting, and maybe he can recapture some of his one great year from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and he doesn't even need to recapture all of that, right? I think issue one is staying healthy. But like Bench, he also has some skills that keep his floor kind of high. And for a center fielder, offense from a center fielder is often a bonus anyway.
Mhm.
So he can field, and he's a speedster. So again, the floor is kind of high for him. He's not going to crater. His offense has been disappointing because he had such a great year. Not that it's good even without that as context, but because with that context, it looks like he's completely collapsed. But he's got some skills, and he's not going to embarrass you out in center field for sure.
That's true. And even if this shouldn't be true, I think the fact that now he is on a good team as opposed to one of the worst teams of baseball, and is no longer necessarily the focus of the offense, may help him relax.
Take a little pressure off him. Exactly. I think too. I think you'd be foolish to think, oh, this guy has a real chance of staying healthy all year because he's never done it. But I do like the way that they're easing him in. I've read some critiques of that, like, oh, they, have this $20 million center fielder that they gave up a lot for, which I don't agree, because I don't think Acuna was much. But, and now he can't even take the field. But like, they did that with Nimmo, and Nimmo, who used to have injury issues earlier in his career, has not had them since they started that method with him. So I'm a little optimistic about it.
I think that's good. All right, before we get to the WBC, anything you want to say about Semien, Bichette, or Lindor coming back?
Lindor coming back with power is really, really important. There are folks on the roster who can take that shortstop position for a while, but I don't really want to turn the team over to them. I think that he is the key in many ways to this lineup.
No, I agree. I mean, it might be nice for Mauricio to get a week or two of just playing every day just to see what happens, but you want Lindor to come back as soon as possible.
I'd rather Mauricio play every day for an entire season in AAA. I mean, he lost the 24 season to injury. He essentially lost development all of last year because he played a little, but he sat on the bench an awful lot. This is a guy who's got some major red flags. He's got enormous talent, but major red flags. And you're not working those red flags out by sitting on the bench. So if it's at all possible, keep the guy in Syracuse all year. It's kind of the Jonah Tong thing. Let him work it out, and then you see what you got. Because if he puts it all together, you've got yourself a major talent on your hands. But if he doesn't, then you've got, Jordany Valdespina all over again. I don't think we should expect much offensively from Semien, but he is apparently a great clubhouse guy. We know he's a great fielder, so that's wonderful. And I hear great things about Bichette's character, a different kind of hitter, not purely power, but boy, oh boy, how many times did we leave runners in scoring position over the last handful of years, and he seems to rise to those occasions. I'm actually excited to see him play. I don't know that much about him.
No, same here, but that's exactly what I heard as well. And God knows we can use some hits at opportune times.
Oh yeah, I mean, it got to the point where you'd have runner on third and one out, and say, "Oh, how are they going to blow this?" And they would. So that was frustrating, and hopefully he solves some of that for sure.
This is a year of the World Baseball Classic, and something that I have mixed feelings about, and I think all Mets fans have mixed feelings about now because of what happened to Diaz a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you can't, as a Met fan, not think about that. And as I always have pointed out to people who support the WBC, and that Diaz's injury was freak, and it could happen in spring training. You don't celebrate a win on the mound in spring training like you do with WBC, and that's when he hurt himself. I like the players on the team focusing on the team that is paying them. I like them gelling as a unit. I like them, yes, people get hurt in spring training, but at least they're getting hurt in the practice of getting ready for the thing that they're getting paid for, and frankly, I'm paying tickets for or paying TV for. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the WBC at all.
No, the other option would be to have it at the same time as the All-Star break and have it in the middle of the season. But the same thing might apply then. I mean, if somebody gets hurt then, it ruins a season. But at least I suppose they're more in game shape than in spring training.
I think that's critical because I think that people are rushing their prep to get ready for the WBC in a way that they don't for the regular season. And I think, apparently there's no statistics that show that people are more likely to get injured in WBC, but my gut says it's not a great idea. So, but you brought up the All-Star break. Basketball does this in-season tournament now, and there's been some talk about baseball doing that. I'm not a big fan of that either, to be honest with you. I'm a bit of a purist. And also, the end of the day, like, I'm a Mets fan as much as I'm a baseball fan. So, watching Juan Soto play for the Mets is a lot different for me than watching Juan Soto play for the Dominican Republic, right? And if the Dominican Republic is playing the U.S. in a pivotal game, am I really going to be rooting for Bryce Harper over Juan Soto? I mean, I don't need that kind of conflict in my life.
Exactly.
So I would just assume get rid of it. I know a lot of the players like it, and
I read that Peralta decided not to be in the WBC this year, and which I think was a good move on his part, but evidently he was really conflicted about it. I mean, this is something that he felt really strongly, and he's been in the WBC before, and he feels strongly about representing his country. So I get that side of it as well. But
I do too. He decided against it because he wanted to acclimate himself to the Mets a little bit more, right? Which makes some sense. I mean, I get it.
And it's his contract year. So
yes, of course. Right. If that had been Diaz's contract year, he would have been screwed. But I mean, I get that. It's easy for me as an American who watches American baseball to think, what's the big deal? But I guess if you're Korean or you're Japanese or you're Dominican, a chance to play for and with your countrymen, I think I get that too. But I don't know. I get uneasy. Like Soto hit a triple the other day. I was like, don't leg out a triple in an exhibition game. What are you doing? Don't pop that hammy.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I suppose the one thing, if you did it in season at the All-Star break, if they were willing to reduce the number of games in the season, like back down to like 154,
well, you'd have to expand the All-Star break, obviously, to fit that in.
Because it's the full season is a grind on players.
It is a grind. And the other thing too, now that there's so many rounds of playoffs, you could reduce the regular season. I don't like that idea, but I mean, 162 when two teams per league made the postseason, those games 161, 162 could matter.
Mm-hmm.
But now, so many teams can make the postseason. It seems to matter less.
Right. And even though 162 seems like a sacred number now, I mean, it was only the 60s, right? That it went from.
It was for expansion, yeah.
So
absolutely. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And then the weird things like there was that little item about Nolan McLean having vertigo symptoms. Yeah. And it's like, okay, and now he's fine, and it probably is nothing. But like he collapses on the mound at the WBC.
I mean, I heard it was an ear infection, which can cause dizziness, so that's fine. Obviously, the WBC itself had nothing to do with whatever making him dizzy. But yeah, you're like, here we go. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, like, that's another thing too. A guy like Nolan McLean, how many Mets phenom pitching prospects have come up and never made it, right? Mm-hmm. Tim Leary and Pulsifer and Wilson and all these guys. And it's certainly a risk with any pitcher. But if McLean blows out his elbow in the WBC as opposed to at spring training, it's going to feel even worse to me. I promise you that.
Yep. And then, you read like Clayton Kershaw is on the Team USA roster, and he didn't. I mean, he pitched the other day, but did not do that well. But maybe that's. I mean, maybe you want older players. I mean, maybe that's the thing.
Well,
Players who are at the end of the careers or
yeah,
something, and they get one last hurrah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, obviously you don't want anybody getting hurt, but Kershaw, like you said, is at the end of his career. So yeah, of course, then it's just old timers day,
So we are getting closer and closer to opening day.
which is in March this year.
I still can't get used to
I
that.
can't either.
But given that at the moment people seem to be relatively healthy, and we have a lot of intriguing possibilities, where do you think this Mets team is going this year?
I think a lot has to do with how they gel as a unit. I don't like to oversell that, but a lot of new faces, and but given if they maintain health, I think there's every reason for them to be incredibly competitive in the NL East. The Phillies are getting old, and so if I were a Phillies fan, I might start getting a little concerned about that. The Braves you can't count out. They had a terrible year last year, but it was kind of a case of whatever can go wrong did go wrong, and they're not off to a great start this year either. In that luck,
that outfielder tested positive.
Yeah, but I like our chances. What do you think? I mean, when we last talked, we were full of question marks. How are you feeling about it now?
Well, I think we still have question marks that we're not going to be able to know the answer to until we get into the season. But I think we can really we'll do very well. I think you're exactly right. The Phillies are getting older. Wheeler is not back yet.
And he had thoracic outlet, which
Right.
is not a guarantee to come back at all.
Exactly. I think it was just slightly different from what Harvey had.
Yeah,
So
I think
evidently this is something that's more likely to come back from, but still, at the most he'll have half a season probably. And I think the pitching really might hold up this year, that we have pitchers who either have another year of experience or are back to full health, and they should be able to go even just an inning or two longer. And if we had several pitchers who could go 5 or 6 innings, it would make all the difference. It was really when we had pitchers going 3 or 4 innings last year.
Or
that
even 4 and 5.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. That extra inning or two is huge.
So I could see the Mets getting up to 90 games easily. I can't above that. It's hard to say because there are too many unknowns until the games are actually played.
I was thinking about this the other day. You have some really solid ball players, but if Robert is what he's been the last couple of years, I'm talking about offensively. Alvarez is still, shows flashes, but sometimes he's really frustrating up there. Semien is not a great hitter anymore in any way, shape, or form. So, and we don't know what Benj is going to bring.
Right.
So you might have a team with 3 or 4 automatic outs, and that's hard to overcome. We shall see. And Beatty too. I put Beatty in that category as well. Beatty has showed some flashes, but he's never had a great season.
I know. I mean, not that I'm a huge Mark Vientos fan, but it sort of feels like he had a great season and then a terrible one, and now Beatty had a really good season, but half season. So, but he has to show it again.
I agree. So those are the question marks that I think we're both looking at.
And we didn't talk at all about Polanco, but he should be a decent hitter.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm optimistic and looking forward to the season, which hasn't always been the case.
I think we've got a team that is more likely to surprise us up than it is down. I think that this is not a team built to be a total disaster. I hope I don't eat my words, but yeah, I'm optimistic as well. But I'm always optimistic. I was optimistic in 1977 for crying out loud.
All right. So I think we've come to the end of our second episode.
Okay, we did it. We did it again. Yes. Nobody died. That's always a good thing.
Exactly. A pleasure doing this with you.
Always, Ethan. Hanging out with you, talking Mets, that's a good Friday morning.
I agree.
Awesome.
All right.
Until next time.
Sounds good.